everybody, welcome back to our amazing um series on purity culture. I think today you're really going to enjoy our conversation because so many marriages are impacted. I just read a study that said out of 2,000 women that were surveyed, 35% of those women did not feel that they could have any kind of pleasure in the sex in their marriage. And so we're going to talk a little bit about purity culture. We're going to talk little bit about relationships today, and we're going to talk a little bit about all kind of things, whatever comes up. So, welcome to both of you. Do you want to introduce yourself and just give me a sentence or two about who you are and why you're here?
Hi, Lisa. I'm James. This is my wife, Sandra.
No,
Um, we've been married for 21 years. No, I
listen,
got it wrong.
totally got it wrong. We have been married for 23 years.
Wow.
Now that I'm doing that in my head, we've been married since 2002. So that's 23 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I think
We
that
sh-
that is just the perfect intro because that is
we should have
so
rehearsed
typical.
that. So we have 4 children, right? That's right. Correct.
That is
Okay, good.
correct.
I have
Yes.
have that count. They're ranging from teenage years, just getting ready to start driver's ed, up to adult children. So yeah, it's a transition for us because, like, having gone from the period where they require a lot of attention to a period where they require less attention but more walking side by side and doing activities alongside them. Yeah, so it's a different phase for sure.
That's beautiful. How do you feel about your about driving and all that kind of piece? It's that whole bittersweet thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this will be our last one going through driver's training, and it's so hard. Nobody prepares you for that. As far as being the passenger of your
Mhm.
kid driving, it's very scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so freeing because they can finally take themselves to all the practices and different things, but at the same time, like, even if you have the perfect drivers, there's other drivers out there that, maybe not are so perfect, and it's like,
We
oh,
don't
it's
have the
scary.
perfect drivers. That's not, no.
Same. Expensive.
They're they're yeah,
Exactly.
they're all
So let's
boys.
dive right in and say, what messages did both of you grow up hearing about sex, purity, and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we grew up in the 80s and 90s, and that was a very big y- y- purity culture. I mean, we both grew up in a church. He was Methodist, I was Baptist, kind of in disguise, I guess, but Baptist, and very much driven, and I'll speak for myself, very much driven in my head. No sex before marriage. Sex is designed for procreation and just a lot of shame around sex in general. And, the purity rings and, your dad has to be a part of all of this and all of these things. And it was a very confusing time because I also had a lot of things marinating in my head that I didn't also have the ability to ask questions around. And so it was very much like no sex until marriage, conversation over.
Mhm.
And then learning about just having boundaries for boys and just not being taught the correct way to actually have a relationship with the opposite sex in a beautiful, uh, consensual way, right? So that was not never a thing that I was taught.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, purity the word purity in and of itself is so deceiving, right? So if you whatever your church or whatever your family's belief system is about purity, I know that some started off you can only hold hands, there's no kissing, hugging or anything all the way through, don't have sex. So families ranged all the way in there, but as soon as you cross that line in any way, shape, or form, then all of a sudden you become impure, right? Like, all of a sudden, you've lost all sense of who you are as a desired Christian woman, and it's just a crazy phenomenon.
Well, it was also in how you dress and making sure that you are dressing in a way to not have boys have lust or have sinful thoughts. And I had to be the gatekeeper of that, which is just not true, which is so toxic teaching and signing the purity pledge and all these things. And it definitely affected me after marriage. And I don't think as we've started to unpack a lot of this stuff over the last couple of years, I didn't realize the mental damage that these teachings did play on me until, 18, 20 years into our marriage, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think
growing up,
go ahead.
um, once again in the 80s and 90s, I remember it was a very normal thing for young girls my age at the time to be wearing purity rings, right? And I remember on several different occasions, whether it was like a vacation Bible study or whatever, where you know um, we were taken through the purity messages and um, encouraged to sign the purity pledge and everything like that. I think that as a boy, I do remember an occasion where the messaging was given like, "This is for the girls," right? I don't remember what it was specifically, but I think it was like I went to sign a pledge or get a purity ring or something, and they were like, "This is for the girls," right? And I didn't trigger with me at the time where it was really how much of the onus was being put on the girls, right? For the young boys, I think it was very internal. It was like, "Oh, this is just about my decision as to whether or not, I have sex before marriage." But I think for the young girls, it was a message of, it isn't just about whether you decide to have sex before marriage. You're also responsible for making sure that you don't fall victim, or even that you don't allow, young men to push you past your boundaries, right? And it wasn't that message was given like, um, young men should be responsible for that. It's like, no, the young women are responsible for being the gatekeeper and controlling it. And I don't think I realized that until honestly within the last year.
Yeah.
Um, as we started unpacking what the messages really were, how they were being delivered, and what responsibilities were being put on young women versus young men, right? Um, and how that programming even leads into adulthood and marriage,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, what about, like, all the thoughts and those kinda things? Because, as a young man, obviously, testosterone is running deep, right? You see a pretty girl, your mind might not be, like, right where it needs to be, all pure. When you internalize that, did you think that automatically it was, even looking back, that was a girl's fault? Like, "Well, I wouldn't have thought that way if her skirt wasn't so too short," or I wouldn't have thought that way if whatever. Or did you just how did you feel about those thoughts as they entered your head as a teenager?
I think so. When I think I was really exposed to the purity culture messages, I think I was too young to realize and understand the thoughts and desires I would have a few years later.
Mhm.
And so it was really easy at the time to be like, "Oh yeah, this makes sense. I'm all on board with this. Why wouldn't you do this? This is definitely the right thing, right?"
Yeah.
But as I got older and um those urges and desires really came into play, I think it was really easy for me as a young man just to cast the purity culture aside and just be like, "Yeah, I changed my mind."
Mhm.
Um, I don't think I ever really saw it from a perspective of like, "Oh, um, women should have a responsibility to protect my purity."
Yeah.
I just didn't really care about it anymore, and that was probably due to a lot of influences from my peers, especially, um, my friends and peers and media, and absolutely pornography that really just sent the message that you should just do what you want, right?
Mhm.
As a man.
So you didn't have any guilt or feelings of sin when you were looking at pornography or any of those kind of things growing up? It was just like, you're just one of the guys.
Occasionally, yeah, I mean, I would go through periods where I'd be like, I need to be better, but ultimately, I don't think there was much guilt. No. Um, yeah. No, I don't think so.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay, so, how did those, expectations and those beliefs affect both of you going into your, relationship?
Our relationship or our marriage?
Well, because you lived together first, right? So,
Yeah.
when
Yes. Yeah.
you moved in together as a couple, how did
Yeah.
those expectations? Because well, let's back up because never assume, right? So, I'm gonna assume that when you lived together that you stayed in the same bedroom.
Very, very, safe assumption. Yeah, I mean, we honestly very, very much rushed into our relationship, and I mean, I have 0 regrets, but at the time when we met each other, we worked together and we were going away to college. Neither one of us had a place to live. At
Mhm.
the time, the university was very small and they didn't have enough housing. And so my plan was to move in with my best friend. His plan was to move in with his best friend. And it was like, oh, well, why don't we just move in together? And we were friends, right? Like, we weren't actually dating yet. And, well, very quickly, it evolved into even before we even moved in together, right? It evolved into like, "Oh, this is more than a friendship." And so we got an apartment together, and I mean, I honestly, to be totally honest, I have no idea when we first had sex. I really don't remember. And so, looking back, that is actually a very light bulb. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know if that means anything, but I mean, I do remember our first kiss. I will say that. But I think for me, it happened very fast, and I think I was young and naive, and it was like he was my knight in shining armor. He was my protector. He was everything. Oh, right, like, he was everything at the time for me, and
Raised with, right? So you're raised to learn Cinderella and all the
yeah,
princesses
kind
have
of.
their knight to come in and rescue
Yeah,
them, and then the church reinforces that, this person is your protector and
yeah,
you're to fall underneath his guidance because he's gonna protect you.
yep, I did. I very much was, loved the fantasy, the Cinderella and all the Snow White and all these things, and very much so. But even looking back, I think I was kind of numb to it all at the same time, but I also I never was able to fully embrace even our relationship because I was so weighted down with guilt. And that was very much engraved in me. And I don't even think that I told my mom right away. I think she probably still thought I was living with I have no idea. I really don't remember. It was a very long time ago. But I knew that she would shame me. I knew that she wouldn't like it. And I knew that she would look at me differently. And she did, right? But at the same time, here I am going like, well, I'm an adult now. Like I am an adult. And but I never that feeling of shame and guilt and this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing this very much affected every avenue of our dating life. And then, I mean, I'll let you share, and then I know there's more to that story, but
Yeah, so, I think I don't know about you, but when we moved in together, like, I my intention was to get married,
Mm.
right? Um,
You knew she was the one early.
yeah, and I think though there was a lot of unhealthy things a around that as well. Like, I had some very I had some very significant insecurity issues, um, about, um, being alone. I had to be in a relationship, right?
Mhm.
And if I wasn't, um, that I just couldn't navigate that very well. Like it was just this anxiety and fear that I was going to be alone, right? Um, so that wasn't a healthy beginning, number one. But um, I think really, if to be really transparent, is I liked everything about her, and I was like,
That's good.
we're gonna move in together, and I expect that we will get married. And I mean, one of the reasons too is that I liked everything about her so much is that I am a rescuer,
Yeah.
right? I want to rescue the girl, and she
Wanted to be rescued.
wanted to be rescued, right?
Right, it
So
fits right in the narrative, doesn't it?
yeah,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
but my major holdback was
Well,
sexual.
so the first time we met, I was crying. Like,
Yeah, I
so,
was
Aw,
I
crying
mean, right then and there, that was
just because of something that had happened
yeah,
at work, right?
yeah.
And I was able to comfort her, and but I think my big major thing was, what is our sexual relationship gonna look like, right? Because that was really high on my list of important things for marriage, was that we're just gonna have this amazing sexual relationship, and it's gonna work and be easy, and no problems at all, right? But as Sandra said, she was really consumed with a lot of guilt, right? Even anytime we went beyond just kissing or holding hands, um, and even probably even just living together, I think she was consumed with a lot of guilt, right? So even when we did have, like, intimate relations before marriage, it was like red flags and whistles going off in my head, because I'm like, this isn't good. This is highly dysfunctional. How could I marry this girl when this thing that's important to me is obviously not going to be fulfilled? But at the same time, she was saying, well, it's just because I feel so much guilt, it's going to be different after we're married, right?
yeah,
And I think she believed that.
yeah.
I did. I
um
did, very much so.
and I was still very scared, like, what if it's not? But after quite some time, she truly did give me an ultimatum, and was like, look, we're gonna get married or we're done.
Yeah.
And so, honestly, I took the risk. I was like, well, our sexual relationship is really important to me, and at the moment it appears we're sexually incompatible, but you're telling me it's going to change, so I'll take that risk, right?
And we were together, what, 2 do you remember? Like, over 2 years, like, probably 2.5 years before we got married,
But
something
the
like
intimacy that you had was obviously youth driven, right? And you loved each other, but also guilt driven. And so you weren't able to completely give yourselves to each other because of so much guilt that you had. And then you got married, and then magically you were able to fully complete each other and just give each other the honeymoon was fantastic because you were finally married.
Yeah. So, and it's been a great interview, and this is that was the end of the story, and it's all done. um
Yeah.
unfortunately unfortunately, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
um so it it unfortunately didn't change after marriage. It was still very strained. It appeared that we were still very incompatible. Like, it just was, like, not good, right?
Well, then actually, right before we got married, he lost his job and had to move 2.5 hours across the state. I was still finishing up my bachelor's degree, so I stayed. And so we got married and didn't even get to live with each other for like 6 months. And so I thought that was God punishing me. I thought it was, I mean, it just played very heavy on my psyche. And I thought, this is what I get. Right. And so I was still very much gatekeeping myself and felt like I was getting punished.
So
It
So
was so bad. Like, it's so like looking back on it, I'm like, this is so man, if I could tell that little girl, like, no, this is not what's happening. I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Cause it's not what happened. Like it's just the enemy and it's not true. And it's all the voices in my head of all these people that were teaching me all these things. It's man, yeah, I wish I could go back and tell that little girl, like, no, this is not.
yeah.
so
Yeah, well, we have, like, that visual of your wedding day is, you wearing white, that, the heavens part and, like, the white light shines down because 'cause you're just shining in all your purity and glory, right? And in the back of your head, you're like because of the training that you've had in church, you're thinking, "I don't deserve this because I am not pure. Somehow have desecrated what God has created this day to be, and so I don't get to participate." So how when you were living together, how did the church respond to you?
well,
Yeah, there's a story
yeah.
too.
So our home church, um, we had a pastor that was just really an amazing man, and he um
He didn't
he
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 didn't care. He really didn't.
he did he walked with us, and it was
Yes.
just amazing. Like he had dinner with us in our apartment, and we had dinner. We would have dinner, out at restaurants, whatever. I mean, he wasn't just like someone on stage on Sunday. Like, he knew us.
Mhm.
Um, and I wouldn't say he didn't care. He encouraged us to be abstinent, right? Um, but he didn't come across as judgmental
He
at
didn't
all.
care. Let me just rephrase. He didn't care in terms of, "I'm not going to marry you because." He cared in the form of like, "Well, let's get you married," right? And so the fact that we were living together wasn't going to provide any sort of barrier to him to
To
marry
marrying
us.
us.
So let me just clarify
Yeah,
what I mean
so
by that, right?
there is this viewpoint in churches, and I'm not gonna take a stance on what's right or wrong. I think different churches have different viewpoints, different pastors have different viewpoints, but his viewpoint was there are several different remedies to this sin that you're living together, and one of those is get married,
Mhm.
right? And um it seems counterintuitive to me that a church would put up a barrier to say, "Oh, you can't get married because you're living together," when marriage is one of the resolutions to that problem,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, uh, so, um, yeah,
I really well, looking back, I have to question on whether I really wanted to get married in the church that I grew up in. Looking back, I'm like, isn't that kind of funny? But I also think my mom and my parents probably also wanted to see me get married in that church, but it was probably more so me. I don't really know, but
you really wanted to get married.
yeah, so that was and it is probably true, but it's I look back at that, I'm like, okay. But so again, that was like 2.5 hours away from where we were living at the time. And so our pastor was going to travel and marry us inside of this church. That wasn't his church,
Wow.
but that pastor at that church had to get involved. And which is fair enough. I have no qualms about that. I feel like that's fair. But he said, "You can't be living together and you can't be having sex and you can't get married here." Was very shaming, was very adamant about the fact that you can't get married in our building if you guys are living in sin. So we bent over backwards to have him move out. He moved out with a buddy, ended up signing a lease because you had to at the time. Anywhere you'd have to sign a lease. And so we financially fell over backwards to try to accommodate all of these things. And there was part of me that sort of had some relief. I thought, okay, this is going to get rid of my guilt and I can now live like this and try to figure out what try to process through all. I had no one to process through it with though. Like was just me trying to navigate some of this stuff that was just so confusing in my brain, and I thought I was gonna have some relief, and I really didn't. And so we did. We stopped having sex, we stopped living together, we did all these things, and this pastor never from the church that we got married in, my home church, which wasn't the pastor that I had when I grew up, never talked to us again. Never showed face again.
But
Never,
he
like, checked in on us to make sure we were following the rule, and, like, it just
but
it
he sent his I don't know, I think he did realize because we had communicated that we couldn't financially do this, right? And it was really like, well,
yeah.
you can do anything you want to do, and that may be just like your cross to bear, right? It ultimately sent us into a bankruptcy.
Mm.
Started off our marriage great.
Um because the financial challenge was
On top of
sig-
losing his job.
yeah,
Yeah.
significant enough that it did result in a bankruptcy. Um we tried to we tried for years to kind of recover, but it just didn't happen. So, and I think that's one of the things that is unfortunate when pastors are putting these hard lines down is, you know, do you really know the people that you're counseling enough to understand the impact that you're putting them through when you're giving them this doctrine that basically says, well, you'll do it under any cost, any circumstances, or you're condemned by God,
Yeah.
right? So,
I think you guys that story brings up a really great point on kind of a little side subject, right? So, you have really shared two very, very different perspectives on sin, right? So, you have the pastor of your home church, your home meaning where you were living at the time, not your parents' church, who was like, "You know what? I'm gonna come over for dinner. I'm gonna get to know you. I'm gonna be like, I know that you're living in sin, but you know what? I care about you as people. I care about you as a couple. And so I'm gonna come alongside you and be there." And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like had you decide not to get married at that time, he would have continued to love on you. He would have
Yeah.
continued, you could have still gone to church, right?
yeah,
And then you had, the pastor at your parents' church who was like, "Oh, sin,
Mhm.
you have to correct this before we'll do anything, right? And
right,
at any cost." And I think that we can take that is such a great, valuable lesson that we can take to so many different venues, right? Like I am happen to be, and I know Sandra is too, because we talked about this, but I am passionate about the LGBTQ plus community, right? And so many Christians are like, that is the ultimate sin. I cannot come over to your house. I cannot have you come over to my house because
right.
you're living in this kind of relationship.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful example that you shared with it does not matter. Like the impact that it had on you to have that pastor love you guys so much, no matter what your lifestyle was, that it
Right.
impacted you for life. Like you're still talking pleasantly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, what was I gonna say? Okay, so how did you respond to the impact for you as a couple and then individually as you got married? Like to
So,
that you're in bankruptcy, which is like financial stress is like the number one hard stress on a marriage. You are carrying all this incredible guilt for like, having sex before marriage. Somehow, James, you at some point are feeling like I have tarnish this person that I love because she's feeling so much guilt, right?
Well, I
there
also
was go ahead.
don't know how much we actually talked about it because it was one of those elephants in the like, we didn't have the verbiage around it, we didn't have the counseling around it, we didn't have the, like, "This is wrong, this is right," like, we didn't have anybody to process any of this through, so there was always sort of that weird
Well, there was
vibe.
also even a lack of resources
Yes.
from a video media study perspective, books. they were still very much ingrained in the traditional view of marriage where, um, the your body is not your own,
Yeah.
you submit to your husband. And so there wasn't anything that really could help us understand or even explain the way that we were feeling it. And it was really a lot of that was really damaging, right? Because there was so much going on at that time. So, unfortunately, our sex life didn't get magically better just because we got married, right?
Right.
Because she was still having a lot of guilt, and then I did start feeling like, oh well, this is probably just God punishing me for all of my prior sexual sin, not just with her, but in even in previous relationships, right? For me, casting off the purity pledge and just saying I don't care about this, um and then like living together. So yeah, there was a certain part of me was like, well, this is God's punishment for me. Um, Now there is a lot of things that I think young married couples, if they choose to get married in their 20s, um, there's probably a lot of things that are common in the experiences there. I mean, most people in their 20s are just trying to get started in their career after college. They have some student loan debt. They have a desire to maybe buy their first starter home after marriage, but they're probably not really financially prepared for that. We started having children pretty early. So actually, when we did finally file bankruptcy, um, our 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 oldest son, I think, was, he was young. He was still in a car carrier, like
He was new.
yeah. So, um, I think a lot of men at that age, um, really put a lot of pressure and weight on themselves to financially support their family. Even in two-income houses, I still believe that men just really bear this immense weight on their shoulders that, like, if I can't provide for my family, I'm a failure.
Right.
And um so all of my time and attention was going into my career, like all of it.
Yeah.
And then that made her feel really neglected. I think it just this culmination of circumstances really just built a lot of resentment between the both of us,
Yep.
and we didn't have a lot of time or resources to be able to understand each other. And um yeah, it, there was, she was feeling this guilt surrounding our sexual relationship, and I know many times she even verbalized to me she felt broken.
Mm.
Like, I'm broken. I don't work. I don't know why I don't have this desire or why I feel this guilt. I'm broken. And then I felt like I was duped. I was like, this was supposed to get better after marriage and it didn't. And so now I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a marriage where our sex life is going to be horrible forever. Right.
Yeah. Which is like the worst dreaded words for 9 out of 10 men in the world. My sex life is gonna be duped forever. But the
Right.
other thing that I think is really interesting is, there are so many, especially at that time, there were so many resources on how to prepare yourself for marriage in purity, right?
Mhm.
Like, all the things you have to do, what true love waits looks like, all those different things. But if for whatever reason you don't fall under that category and you're in the church and you get married, you're right. Like there's no resources or very little resources, especially in the 90s, where that focus was on to have how can we come alongside you as a couple when true love didn't wait, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
now,
Well, it was
great, I'm just
Yep.
broken and nobody can fix me.
right. And it was like there was a lot of the resources at the time that offered any solution was very prescriptive in a obligation type of manner. Like, well, do not withhold sex
Yeah.
from each other, and
That's
your body is not yours,
yeah.
and it was just like, I guess I have to do this out of obligation, or I'm not living the way God intended me to. That doesn't result in a healthy, intimate relationship at all.
And nothing kills passion like obligation.
Right,
Yeah,
sure. Right.
yeah. So many rules. I gotta check them all out 'cause we're
Well, and the thing is too, I will say men can tell, but I think both spouses can tell. Like, you can tell when it's obligation
Yeah.
versus
Well,
passion,
I
right?
think
Yeah,
part of it was he was blaming me, I was blaming me. So but at the same time, he was feeling the weight of all of the stuff that he was mentally going through, but I was feeling the weight of this shame around, "I'm broken. I am now being punished. I shouldn't be doing this. Why is my nervous system not reacting the way it should be?" All of these things.
yeah,
And, um, yeah, it's kinda like trying to run up a hill while somebody's trying to pull you down at the same time.
yeah, yeah. Kind of an impossible situation for sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So, we talked about how women are taught to, like, kinda disconnect from their bodies. How did that show up in your relationship? Like, did you feel like let's back up. Do you feel like you had to kinda disconnect from your body? Like, you really couldn't open up and couldn't, like, experience sex the way that it was created to be? And why do you think women are kinda disconnected like that?
Well, I think for me, I could not enjoy it
Mhm.
because it was never taught. I was never told sex is enjoyable.
Right, right.
I was always taught sex is bad.
Yeah,
And so, well, if sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad,
right.
right?
Yep,
And so for me, I was never able to relax enough. I was never able to even allow for the exploring of what feels good because sex is bad,
right,
right? And so I still gate kept my body even from my husband, who was supposed to be the one person that was supposed to be allowed to give me enjoyment. And so
right.
to even be able to explore that without the shame and guilt just never happened. I never allowed it. I thought I was supposed to not enjoy it.
Well, yeah,
So
and you're the keeper of your husband and his sexual desire, right? So if you're the keeper of, like, if my focus is on you and how I can make sure that you are doing good, there's no like what makes me feel good? What do I like, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too that the I'm supposed to do all of these things, I think you nailed it, for him so that his eyes don't wander, so that he doesn't watch pornography, so that he doesn't, but also at the same time, oh, he'll never do that.
Right.
He would never do that to me. He would never hurt me in that way. We've we're married, right? Well, we'll get to that story in a
so
minute.
when do you think that you started receiving these purity culture messages? Like, at what age?
So, that's a good question. I would probably say very, very young. I think when they start doing I think sex ed started in, like, 5th grade,
Mhm.
if I'm not wrong, maybe 6th grade?
Yeah.
So, that whole and that's the part too. My mom thought that if she talked to me about sex, even at such a young age, that would make me want to have sex for some reason.
Mm.
So, I was never even taught really about what it was like to have a period or what it was like to I learned all of that from public school, right? Because my mom, I think, was very scared that, well, this equals that, and that's just not true, right? That's silly. And so I had to do a lot of I don't even know if even my friends and I really talked about it, but I honestly was so naive, so blind to even what sex really was until I was probably 16
Yeah. Well,
because no one
I think
no one
that
taught me.
education for girls starts so much earlier. Like, I think girls going back to the princess syndrome, right?
Mhm.
So girls start at 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
years old
Barbies and
watching those
Ken and
princess movies and
yep.
playing Barbies, and that man is gonna come in and rescue me, and I am just going to sing, and the birds are gonna come and clean my house, which never happens, dang it. But, like, I am going to put myself under him, and he is gonna protect me and love me and honor me, and so I think it starts way, way young.
Yeah.
Well, so,
But
like,
without
when
knowing
you
it too,
were
right? Like, you don't know I don't know I didn't know that that was grooming, I didn't know that that's what was happening, right?
Right.
Like, I had no idea.
Yep.
so when you were starting to receive the abstinence message in school or the purity culture messages from church, um, like, what do you think, like 11, 12 years old or earlier, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know, probably. Again, I think when I got my period, it was like, "Oh, well, okay, don't have sex. Conversation over," right? Like
So you gotta think about this, and, like, Sandra was reading a book, and I was kinda doing some of my own research, that led down the purity culture path,
Yep.
and it was funny because we both kinda had a conversation about what we discovered, and it was, like, the same thing, but,
I love it.
um, so you have to think about this. If Sandra started receiving these messages of you are responsible for your own abstinence and also controlling young men's uh desires and
eyes.
eyes.
Yep.
um so you're responsible for both halves of the equation, and that message started at 11, 12 years old.
Yep.
She had 9 to 10 years of that messaging and practicing that and implementing that before we got married, right? And then that was probably heightened substantially when we were living together because she felt the obligation to be completely 100% the gatekeeper for my desires, right? So I'm pushing for sex because I want to validate that this is going to be um, a a g a a good part of our marriage going forward. I'm like, wanna do a trial, right? Like,
Right. Yep.
"Hey, this is an acid test for our marriage," right? And she's gatekeeping that, so that 2 or 3 years had to just be crazy heightened for her,
Mm.
where she was feeling immense guilt and, probably a lot of mental
A
trauma.
lot of it was a lot of shame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
and so
and mental. That's a good way to put it too.
one of the things that we discovered as she was reading her book and I was doing my own research is you can't undo that 10 years of physiological programming on your wedding day.
Yeah.
Your your brain is pre-programmed as okay, I'm the gatekeeper, I'm responsible for his desires and my purity, and that isn't going to turn off on your wedding night when you've been practicing that for 10 years.
I didn't know that.
Right. Right.
um so your physiological response, I in one of the ways that I think that it manifested, especially with her, was I can't lose control. I can't lose control to
Yeah.
my desires, to
Mhm.
my emotions, to and even alcohol, right? And I remember when in our early 20s where she was like really, really um it, like did not want to drink alcohol. Like she would have a drink maybe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but
Well,
and
yeah.
when I would be like, "You can have more, like, let yourself go a little bit." And she was like, "No, I don't like the feeling when I lose control." And I don't did not connect those dots. Like, she was always like, "I can't lose control, because if I lose control, then that will inhibit my ability to be a gatekeeper." Right?
Yeah. That's so
And
good.
so when you even go along the lines of, "Can I lose control to my passion, my desires, my emotions?" it's all that same women, young women are practicing this. Like, if you're in a relationship with or dating another man, and things start progressing and you're like, "Oh, I gotta have control. I gotta shut this down." Right? You've been practicing that for 10 years and now it's just gonna go away on your wedding night? No. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's interesting, so let's do a parallel, right? So you did a beautiful parallel of Sandra and how she grew up and that kind of thing, because I think you hit the nail right on the head. You were spot on, right? But let's do the same for you because as a man in the church, you were taught she's the gatekeeper, right? Like, you were one of the guys in the locker room, you were, experiencing pornography, you were experiencing sex before you even were dating Sandra, and okay with God, right? Like, I can do all these things. And then, so it's interesting to know that you're right. When you come together on your wedding night, you're like, "Okay, well, we test drove, it was okay, but now she said it's magically gonna be better, so we're gonna make it better." And I think that is just so typical, and so many couples today are struggling with that very thing now, whether they've been married 5 years or they've been married 15 years. And so I just am so grateful that you're able to share that. So, within your marriage, things turned a little bit.
Well, a little
And,
bit.
so tell me a little bit behind, what started you had an affair at work. What led up to that? What led up to, you making those decisions?
Well, so fast forward now 18 years into 2020. We have 4 children. They are, I think at that time we had 1 in high school, um, 1 in junior high, and 2 in elementary school.
Yep.
And so I was dabbling in going back to work and was still very, very busy in momhood. And I also teach Zumba fitness. And so I was also kind of going back. I was a substitute teacher, went back into full time work. And we were so far from each other. And so, I mean, I'll speak for myself and then he can speak for him. But I was in a place where I was now, I mean, speaking of control, I've lost all control because I now am walking on eggshells because I'm not sure how he's going to treat me, how he's going to behave, what he's going to say to me. What am I going to say that's going to make him mad? But at the same time, I'm also wanting to be this strong woman, like, don't talk to me like that or whatever. But he was emotionally abusive and would say very hurtful things, yelled a lot. I mean, I'm not going to say I didn't yell, but I mean, he was emotionally abusive to me. I reciprocated. I think that at the same time, most of that abuse did come to me, from him. Never physical, let me just clarify, never physical. It was just a lot of yelling, a lot of name calling, a lot of belittling, a lot of just, "I want to say anything and everything to you that is going to hurt you." And so we were very far from each other, and I never in a million years, again, like I said, this is my knight in shining armor, he would never, ever have an affair. Well, there were plenty of signs. And so as I started to open my eyes and start to really ask questions and really explore, that is when I confronted him. And I mean, I guess I'll let you say whatever you want before we go any further.
So the yeah, there's a lot of interesting things to unpack about what led up to the affair. I mean, our marriage wasn't good. Um, we both had a lot of resentment for each other, and I think the root cause of that is ultimately that we didn't understand each other.
Mhm.
We we blamed each other.
Yep. Pride in both of our parts very much.
Yeah. I mean, I blamed her for the lack of our sexual intimacy. She
Mhm.
blamed me for not giving her the attention and love that she needed.
It was very, very career focused, and I was over here going, "Hello, like,
Right.
don't forget
Yeah.
about me and the
I
kids."
mean, at the time I was working 3 jobs,
Yes. Yep.
a full-time job and 2 part-time
Yes.
jobs.
Oh, wow.
Um, and, um, it was just like if she challenged that in any way, it was an assault
Yeah.
on me.
Took
It was like,
abuse.
"You have no idea what I'm doing to provide for this family, and I cannot even believe, like, instead of thanking me up and down, you're suggesting that I'm, like, somehow being selfish," right? Or
Yeah, attacking
not
your very identity because you
right.
Mhm.
said your identity is, "My goal is to provide for my family in a well way so that they don't have to
Yeah.
worry about anything."
Yeah. And,
And never wanting to file bankruptcy again, and the
yeah.
financial weight of that was still.
Yeah, I mean, it took us a lot of years to dig out from under that.
Yeah.
Um, and so I will say I don't know that I can speak for all affairs.
Right. Yeah.
In my situation, the the gateway to the affair was not sexual. Um, it was words of affirmation. And when we talk to couples, this is one of the things where we point out you have to protect your marriage and draw boundaries on what you communicate to other people, especially um, people of the opposite sex,
Mm.
and that can include social media,
Mhm.
right? So it ultimately started with me, um, you know, sharing grievances about my marriage with other people in my work environment who were female. Now,
Now, on my side of that, I would never ever, as a female, want to share, "Oh, my marriage is in trouble," right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that my circle had any idea, and I feel like that probably happens more often in women's circles. Like, no one wants to admit, to people that are, yeah, maybe your close friend circle, yes, but even just, your church girls, like going to moms groups or whatever. I don't think we're going to sit across the table and be that vulnerable. Like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I just don't think, for me anyway, I'm not sharing that. My marriage is great.
Yeah.
Him, on the other hand,
Well, and it negates your goal as the gatekeeper, right? Like,
yes,
if my marriage is in trouble, I am not doing my job as a wife. I'm
right.
not whatever that
You're
looks
right.
like. Submissive
Yep.
enough, I'm not putting myself under his protection, I'm not giving
Yeah.
to him sexually in a way that is appropriate. Like, there's something wrong with me as a gatekeeper, and
Yeah.
so, of course, we don't share those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Which, by the way, if you're listening, please find at least one person to be vulnerable with if you're struggling in
but
anything.
the people that you should be vulnerable with and share with, not in a gossiping way.
Yeah.
Look, I still have people that I will go to when I'm having a challenge in my marriage. They're men. They're men who are older than me, and they are men who are Christian,
And you trust them.
and I trust them. So when I say go to them and say, "Listen, uh, trusted person, um, do you have some time? I'd like to get some of your feedback on something I'm struggling with in my marriage. Now, listen, I'm going to tell you some things about Sandra. um, I want to communicate these not in a gossipy way, but just so that you know the context about what I'm struggling with, right? And this isn't me looking for you to bash Sandra with me, and they already know that. This is a way for you to help me know how I should respond as a Christian man, right? That's a very different context than drinking beers in a bar with your buddies and complaining about your wife,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So, um, I will say that, um, this really the gateway to this and the way it really started was just simply airing grievances about my marriage, um, in front of other women in my workplace at the time. And, um, it may not have been like something that I initiated, right? It could be like I was in a bad mood or not being myself, and someone would come up and be like, "What's wrong?" Be like, "Well, my wife said this to me, and I'm really upset about it." And you know,
My side.
all I do, yeah, this is the problem, right? They don't get to hear the other side, and so you present yourself as the victim, and then they're like, "Oh, you don't deserve to be treated that way. You're such a good man. You're such a good provider for your family."
Right. Which is the key word to what you wanted to hear.
Right. So now you're like, man, that feels good. Right?
Mhm.
And then I might come home and say to my wife, you should tell me these things. Like, but there's two sides to a story. She's like, how am I going to tell you these things when all you do is tell me how horrible I am? Right.
Yeah.
And, and the root cause of this isn't that, isn't that she needs to start praising me more but I mean, like the root cause is understanding each other.
Mhm.
If you just break down the barriers and understand how each other are feeling, then you can start to build empathy,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if you go into a social circle or a workplace where you start painting yourself as the victim of a dysfunctional marriage, there will be someone in that space that will want to rescue you.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
And that is I think I would guess that turns into a very high percentage of affairs.
Yep. Yep. That's really good. That's really good. So, obviously, you were still together. What made you choose to stay and work on your marriage?
Well, so I mean, it was back so I kicked him out. Well, it was let me just back up. It was a kind of a two-part process, which I really feel when we talk about it and think about it, it was probably very much by the grace of God that it was designed that way because he didn't fully confess at first. He told me it was just a kiss.
Mm,
Well, then a week later, the world shut down to COVID. And so now I'm still trying to process this. I believed him, but yet we couldn't get help. We couldn't get counseling. We couldn't really like the world shut down. And now he's working from home. All the kids are home. I'm now full on like, okay, we have to homeschool. What does this look like? We're very, very scared, right? Of what's going to happen, what's going to be next, how do we stay safe, all these things. He was also dealing with now navigating some like big projects at work because all of a sudden these projects had to shift to virtual, so he's feeling some of this pressure. Meanwhile, she's still around because she was blackmailing him because she also knew that I didn't know the whole truth.
yeah.
And so he's dealing with a lot of these things that unbeknownst to me I didn't also know. Now fast forward 4 months, there was just some things that a lot of things, 2 and 2 things that I put together where I basically confronted him and I said, What really happened?" And that's when he basically broke down, and I think it was a compiling of, like, I know I'm lying to you" sort of pressure, and he then confessed. And so I kicked him out, and we were not together for 3 weeks. He was living at his mom's house, and I was at home. Now this was July, so the kids were home for school, like, I didn't so there was some things I didn't have to navigate, which was very much a blessing. But I am I didn't even know what to do with myself, to be honest with you. We had one meeting with our pastor, and he was fantastic. He was great.
He
And
didn't think we were gonna make it though.
he did not, which is kind of funny. But so he then they stayed and talked. I actually did find a counselor and went to my counseling appointment. He stayed and talked to the pastor. And then I think a week later, not even a week later, he then confessed more things to me in front of our pastor. And I thought, okay, he's saying some pretty, very personal things, confessing more things to me in front of our pastor. uh, I was gross. I was this snotty mess, and I'm like, "This is so embarrassing," but at the same time, I felt the authenticity to it, And there was a few other things that he did, um, I like to call it on his hands and feet moment where we were literally on the side of a very busy road and he's on his hands and knees begging me for like I don't even know if you were begging me for forgiveness. You were just begging me for some understanding and allowing me and I don't really know what he was thinking that I was thinking. Like, for all I knew, he was thinking like, I'm ready to sign the divorce papers. Let's go. But that getting a divorce was something that I still didn't want.
Yeah.
And and this is where when I talk to women and they're in abusive situations, I get it, right? Like, I get why you don't want to leave. And then we have to process like what is the abuse and where does it shift and where does it change and
Yep.
what do you not have to tolerate? And because I did tolerate quite a bit. However, the moment where I knew everything was going to change and why I needed to put in the work and why I needed to stay, and I don't even want to say why I needed to forgive him
Yeah.
because that wasn't even something I was thinking about. It was like, how do we fix this? How do we then figure out how to get to a place where I can forgive? It wasn't like I have to forgive. It was like I had to figure. And the one thing when people ask me, how did you do it? The one thing that I say is his eyes changed. And when I say that to people and they go, "Ooh, I can totally get that." And then there's other people that are like, "I don't what do you mean by that?" And there was just this, and I didn't see it until I didn't see it, but there was this sort of demonic essence in his eyes of just pure evil of like, I don't even know who I am. I am like I don't even know how to describe it. But then when his eyes changed and all of a sudden it was this sort of glow about them, like that's where I was like, okay, I really think that you are going to change.
Yeah.
Now prove it. But I also thought he changed, like something in his eyes changed, right? And so I had to say, okay, let's take baby steps forward. Now, there was a lot of 2 steps forward, 10 steps back
Right. Yeah.
during that whole process,
Yep.
but it was this dance that we played. It was something that I had to say, "Okay, let's figure," and it was very, very hard, but I do not think I would have stayed had he not had that posture of complete and total, surrender, right? And that's when I decided to stay. He never, and I'll let you speak into that, but he had never had any plans of ever leaving me. Even though he was in an affair with this other woman, he told me he continued to tell her he was not gonna leave me. And so I believed that. And we're not gonna speak for any other couple that has an affair, but I believe that. So I never had any intentions of getting a divorce. He never had any intentions of getting a divorce. But this was the pivotal moment that changed our entire marriage. And we joke because we laugh, but we can laugh about it now, right? Like, we're sort of grateful because if that grateful in it, like we don't wish this on anybody, like kind of way. But it was such a pivotal turn in our marriage that I don't we would not we would probably still be stuck if that or divorced, right? Like, I don't know. But it just changed the trajectory of our marriage that we were then able to say things to each other that we had never said to each other. We were able to explore emotions because having an emotion was never anything that he processed. And so being able to talk some of this stuff through, he all of a sudden had to take 100% the blame.
Yeah.
And I say that for the affair, for
Right.
actually doing the wrongness of that, but he had to take ownership of that. I had to take ownership of my part. I did not cause the affair, okay? And I wanna make sure that I say that. However, I had to also look at the areas in my side of the marriage that I needed to fix and correct. Had I not done that, I don't think we would have survived either.
Yeah.
So both of us had to look very internal into each other, but there was just something about him constantly blaming me that all of a sudden he couldn't. And so,
Well, I don't know if it was couldn't, but I definitely chose not to,
yeah,
right?
that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a different aspect between what led to our decision to stay together and versus how we stayed together. How
Yeah.
did we go through the process
Yeah.
of healing and re reconstructing our relationship? So yeah, I think like Sandra said, I never wanted or intended to get a divorce. I think I will say 100%, uh, very truthfully, at the time that I entered into the affair, and all that time during the affair, I truly 100% believed that Sandra did not love me anymore.
Mm,
That she was staying with me just out of religious obligation, that
Mhm.
divorce wasn't an option, or maybe just for the kids.
yeah.
And so there was a part of me that was like, Here, Sandra, I'm giving you the reason that you can
Mhm.
leave, right? Even biblically,
And
you're
I would
free.
say part of
Oh,
that is
right.
actually true, right? Like I never in my Christianese, divorce was never an option, right? Except for an affair, right? And
So
I don't know that that's so far off as far as what he believed when he believed that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
so I wasn't gonna like I didn't want a divorce. I truly, truly didn't. But I also was like, I gave her the reason to leave. Why don't you just do it?
Mhm.
Pull the Band-Aid off um and make that decision. And she didn't.
But at the
And
same
but
time, also not not planning on me finding out at the same
and
time.
yeah, that's a
Yeah.
weird thing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a weird thing.
Yeah.
Well, then why are you hiding it?
Yeah.
It's such a
Yeah.
weird thing. But
Right. Yeah.
at so at the same time, I think one of the moments that really hit me was seeing how much it genuinely hurt her. And there was this realization that, like, well, if she didn't love me, she would have just been like, "Thank you for doing that. I'm out."
Right. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Which
Um,
probably does happen. I mean, I will say I would totally understand when and why that happens, right?
Yeah.
So not to like any how allow anybody to feel bad if that is what happened, but I totally get it.
so I think absorbing that because I truly did still love her.
Mhm.
I hated our marriage,
Right.
but I just seeing the pain hit me in a way where I was like, I can't believe I did this to her.
Mm,
Um, I remember like so I had a counselor
mm,
as we were trying to put the pieces back together. Um, and the counselor was just through like my workplace resource program, right?
Yeah.
So you just like go into a lottery and get some counselor that you're assigned.
Yep.
But the counselor I got um was a pastor and he specialized in sexual infidelity. Like what
Isn't that interesting, huh?
what like it's so funny because every as we see all of the individual people and programs, all the unique moments that came into our lives, it was like the perfect person, the
yeah.
perfect timing. Even even for small interactions with someone, maybe we met with them once and
Mhm.
it was like that was the perfect thing that we needed at that moment. But I remember saying to him, I am so indebted to Sandra now. Like I cannot repay it. There's no repayment. I can't repay this debt.
Yep.
So if Sandra were to say, "Look, we're going to stay married, but I want you to live in the basement and never make eye contact with me for the rest of our lives,"
Right.
then that would be my cross to bear. right? Like, it was it was just a complete release of myself. To there was no self anymore. It was like my life is owed to her at this point. Um, and I think that was an important perspective, um, because I think that's what gets in the way of healing through affairs sometimes is we'll see the offending spouse be like, "Well, yeah, it was wrong that I had an affair, but
Right,
it was because you did this," right?
Mhm.
right.
And I just made a commitment to myself and to her early on that I was gonna say, "I'm responsible. I'm sorry I had the affair. End of sentence.
Yeah,
No buts. No, you had part responsibility of it. I didn't do it." Um, and I would say that was critical
yeah,
to our healing.
And
Now,
that's what I saw that was very different because that was never that some he would never take ownership for the way he treated me ever in the past. And to see that light in his eyes and that transformation was very important.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like it was definitely one of the critical points
Mhm.
where you could be able to build that trust because any relationship that is intimate is based on trust, right? And so now you have committed the ultimate betrayal of our marriage. And so I have to be able to trust you in all different ways to make sure that, we can have a successful marriage. So what does trust look like in your relationship and how did you rebuild that to what you have today?
so well, before I answer that, I do want to say another thing about, like you said, why did we stay together?
Yeah.
Sandra and I actually had a conversation one night in our car in the driveway,
Mm,
and I said, "Are we just staying together for the kids?"
Yeah.
And I there was some back and forth, and I think we both agreed that that may have been a large part of it. If we didn't have 4 kids, divorce would have been an easier option.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was it was nice to be able to recognize that it was probably a large portion of why we stayed together, but also that that isn't that that it isn't as bad of a thing as people might think it
Yeah.
is, because it doesn't have to stay static. You can start out and put a brick in the ground and say, "We're gonna build on this brick,
Yeah.
but we're not gonna leave it that way." Right? Yes, maybe we're putting in the effort because of the kids, but we can still build on that and make it into something so much better,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Um, so I apologize. What was your other question that I chose not to answer?
That's okay. So, trust is
Oh,
essential in a
trust.
relationship. So, how did you go build back that trust?
Mm. So there's this is largely on the offending spouse, to earn the trust back,
Mhm.
and I think it's a potential area where there can be a lot of failure because I think the offending spouse, which I'm going to say is oftentimes men, right, but not always. The offending spouse tends to look at this like as an annoyance. Like, look, I've
Mm,
apologized. I'm not going to do it again.
yeah.
Let it go, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
But um you really need to just set pride and anything aside and just be like, what do you need and how can I help you? Like, so I remember one night, um as we were going through, repairing our relationship and rebuilding trust, I had a work meeting, or it wasn't a meeting, it was an after work team dinner,
Mm,
right? Um, and I knew that there was a possibility that she would be feeling, um, some some nervousness or anxiousness about that.
Sure.
And during the dinner, she called me on FaceTime, and um, like, I gotta say, before the affair, I would have just not answered it.
And I never would have called on FaceTime either. Like, that was
Yeah.
not a thing.
Yeah, actually, before the affair, I probably would have not answered it, but also, like, chided her for bothering me during a work
Yeah,
event.
yeah,
You like,
yeah,
Yeah.
um, so, but knowing, okay, she's feeling some anxiety and nervousness. Am I really at a work meeting? Right? So I answered it, and she knows some of the people I work with, right?
Yep.
So, immediately I'm like, "Oh, hey, honey. Hey, say hi to so and so," right?
Yeah.
Not not like calling it out in like, "Yeah, I'm really at a work meeting. Look,"
yeah, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. Yep.
yeah,
But just really kind of putting yourself in the other person's shoes and say, how can I help them? Even presenting ideas to say, "Hey, I know this is a thing I've got to do, and I know that that might cause some anxiety for you. Um, I have a couple ideas on how I can help relieve that anxiety. Or is there anything that you want me to do to help with that?" Right?
Mhm.
Um, and I guess the big thing is, no matter how many times it happens or how long it happens, I don't care if 5 years from now you're still wanting me to take an extra step to prove that I'm trustworthy. That's the price to pay. Now, I don't think that's if you're doing those things and doing them consistently, I'd be surprised if it was more than a year or 2, right?
Yep.
But I think what sets people back is the offending spouse gets frustrated with the extra steps or the extra time, or it shouldn't be taking this long. It takes how long it takes.
yeah,
Mhm. I love that,
The
and I think you're right, like, the whole brick analogy, right? So it's the first brick, stay together because the kids, but then you're consistently building that foundation, rebuilding the foundation of your relationship stronger and better because of the experience that you've had, but
it fell
it's just
down because it
that
had
it
a
takes
lot of
one
cracks.
brick at a time.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. So, um, an affair is an extremely emotional and physical hit on your relationship. How did you guys work to come back with that? And how did you have all these preconceived notions of purity culture that are on there that we talked about already? So, like, bring that all together for me. So, you have all these preconceived notions. You went down this path. You have an affair now as the keeper of his manhood, right? And how do you come back from that? What does that look like for you?
What I keep going back to over and over again is understanding each other
Mhm.
and actually being intentional about that. I think prior to the affair is and y- because of so many circumstances that we came into our marriage with, the baggage we come into our marriage with, right? There's a lot of blaming and resentment and animosity, and just not a lot of time spending understanding why your spouse is behaving this way. It's just like, the way you're behaving is wrong and I want you to change. But if you go deeper and you say, what is the experiences or the baggage or the anxiety or mental trauma that you have that is causing these behaviors, right?
Yep.
And taking time to try to understand that. Now, some of that is resources. Like, we didn't have many resources, right? Um, and I'm very, very optimistic that a lot of that's changing. I think there are a lot of new resources, or new books, new video series,
Yep.
the availability of counselors, and um, like pastoral counseling that is becoming more available with more of an understanding of not the legalistic biblical view, but more of a relationship view and how these things historically have now realizing are impacting people. Um, and it wasn't until recently, I think, definitely within the last year, if not even the last 6 months, where Sandra and I have started unpacking how purity culture played
yeah,
into this,
yeah,
right? But this is still like, I think within within 2.5 to 3 years, our relationship was actually at a point where it's better than it was ever,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I would say we spent 2 years in recovery and just rebuilding, and it started with also unpacking our own personal junk before we really tried to do the actual oneness of our marriage, because there was a lot I think each of us had to really process.
Yeah.
And so I it was 2 years of hard work of the dance that we played and being a part of recovery groups that were also among people that were going through stuff, not necessarily infidelity, but going through very personal things. And I mean, I'll plug it. We did celebrate recovery, and that was a very big part of being in a community of people that are walking into church saying, "I'm broken," as opposed to walking in a church saying, "Everything is awesome."
Right.
and
Yeah.
and 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 when you walk into that space of celebrate recovery, it's very different. It's a very different vibe. And you have very broken people that are raising their hands saying, "I'm not perfect. Tell me your junk and I'll tell you mine." And it's very it was such a great and it was an environment that he was never used to. You know, I would go into moms groups and different groups and things like that. It was something that he was never used to. So it took a little bit more of adjusting for him, but finding those people that were also going through SI issues, sexual integrity issues, and me finding a place where women were also sharing, you know, letting their guard down, right? And so that was very helpful. And as he learned the safe way to sort of expose some more things to me, then I was also I felt in a safe place. And so it was just a lot of communication, a lot of apologizing. That was something that neither one of us even really knew how to do. I mean, it's more than just saying I'm sorry. Like that there is a
It's like,
way.
"I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but."
yeah. There
Yeah.
and we didn't neither one of us knew how to take ownership for that. Part of me was scared to take ownership of things because I was afraid he was going to then attack me.
Yep.
And so I didn't know how to say I was sorry because he didn't know how to receive it. I also probably wasn't very good at receiving apologies because I didn't trust it. I didn't believe it.
Yep.
And so learning how to do that and seeing him in a completely different way because he was all of a sudden vulnerable and honest and able to cry in front of me and able to just be emotional, which I had never seen any of that before.
Right.
And so, yeah, I don't want to say it was easy. It was about 2 years. And then that's when I decided to really where my calling and my passion was to walk other women through this. And so I spent a year getting my master's degree in pastoral counseling. And so I learned a lot. I think even as I went through that degree program, he was reading all of my papers. So
Yeah.
he was learning side by side with me. And then we
Love
were also marriage mentors in that particular church that we were going to at the time. And we were able to help couples. We started teaching classes. Were we I mean, I people are like, "How did you were you healed?" I don't know as a human being, are we ever healed? I feel as though we spend our entire lives unpacking more and more stuff.
Yep.
I don't ever wanna sit here and be like, "I am healed."
Right.
I
Yeah.
am still like, even as I'm starting to explore a lot of this purity culture stuff lately, I'm still going, "Oh," and a lot of this stuff is hitting me in a way where then I can go and have a conversation with him and we can talk through some of this stuff. And so I don't ever want anyone in to be like, because I was actually shamed for that by somebody at church that told me that not enough time had gone by and I wasn't healed enough and I shouldn't be helping people. And I was like, what? I'm like, I'm ahead of that person that just found out about their husband's affair. Why can't I be that person that I needed 2 years ago? What difference does it make? And so that's when I decided to go back to school because I wanted to also then still also not harm, right? Like I also wanted to be equipped to help people the right way. So that's what we have been doing, and we not only help couples that are going through struggling, we also love to do some premarital because those are fun. But but I work a lot with women, and I think one of the very things that is really important to us is that what we witnessed in that particular church space was non-urgency. And it drove us crazy because and I always look at myself, when I found out about his affair, when a woman finds out about their husband's affair, or vice versa, but it's less common. But when a woman finds out about an affair, they need someone within 24 hours to talk to.
Yeah.
And when you are then told to fill out a form or fill out an intake, or we'll get back to you in a week, or you've sent, I I
Rushing.
it's very, very crushing, and you spiral, and you, can go very, very dark very quick.
Yep.
And so that is one of the things that I think we are both very passionate about is when you're in that, you find out about it. I take the woman, he takes the man,
Yep.
and we have these conversations, and it's like a 911 call. It really truly is. It is a heart issue, and it is worthy of urgency. And so one of the things that our church did not do well, I will say the church that we were going to at the time did not do well, was that 911 call.
Yep.
And we are very, very passionate about it. And so yeah, I will cry with you. I will cry with you. I will hold your hand. I will whatever it takes. And he likes to get in front of the guy right away too, because there's a lot of spiraling thoughts that a man can go through too,
Sure.
and it can go so many different directions very quickly.
Yep.
And so that is where our passion is. And now we've just, like I said recently, we've started to explore the impact of very fundamentalist evangelical teaching that is not correct.
Right.
And I want to be a voice of that, and I want to learn. I can't stop learning enough about it. And some of these names that I were authors that were from my childhood, or authors that even were part of
Part
our were
premarital.
premarital and part of our even, early onset marriage. I'm reading some of this stuff now going, "Oh my gosh," like reading it through an entirely different lens where I'm going, "This is what? What are we teaching people?" And I just seeing it on the other side of it, I just I want to be a voice that's unpacking this. And the statistics are out now. We've had enough time to learn of what the damage was,
Yep.
and there needs to be more, and that's why I love what you're doing, Lisa. Like I think there just needs to be more voices that are redirecting, because as a woman, I'm learning this stuff from people that I'm respect prior, right? Like the toxic learning. I
Yep.
learned this stuff, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, okay, this is what I have to do." At the same time, thinking this isn't right. My discernment is on full fire going, "I don't think this is
Right.
right.
Yes.
This isn't right." But I'm supposed to, this is what I'm supposed to do, but
Yep.
I don't feel right about this. And it's, it can make you go crazy. And I think I did, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to be a bigger voice to be able to say to a woman like, "Okay, slow down. Let's," right? And same with the pornography of the how that has just, don't watch pornography. Okay. Well, you how do you tell an alcoholic just don't drink, right? And there has to be a better solution to for men and women to go that have an addiction that is behind closed doors, that they have nobody to talk to about, and the damage that it's doing.
Yep.
And so we can show up to church every single Sunday, and people do not know who we are. they do not know who we are. We don't know all these hidden things that are happening. And so the space for that to be safe is voices like you, voices like all of these podcasts that I listen to where people are bringing this to the light,
Yep.
this
Yep.
damaging teaching that is I think for I can speak for me where we're wrestling with it and now all of a sudden we're going, "Huh, yeah, that's why. Okay, all of this makes sense now." And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating.
Well, it's toxic is what it is. That's what
Yes.
it is. Toxic to relationships. It's toxic to interpersonal relationships. It's toxic to our in our intimate relationships. It's toxic all over.
Yeah.
I love, and I have used it several times since we've talked. I love that you have said that you're a red letter Christian, right?
Oh.
So for those of you who do not know what that means, back in the day, they used to print Bibles and all of Jesus' words were being red letters.
Yep.
And so, really stripping away what the church or what religion or whatever that has to say and really just focusing on what Jesus has to say. I love that whole perspective. I mean, I already was living in that perspective, but like I didn't have a name for it. So I love
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
so I am just like it's just been so fascinating to listen to the both of you and see like all the different threads that have happened and different things. And then you just have this beautiful tapestry, not complete by any stretch of the imagination. You still have the edges that are still going. But I am so grateful that you guys came today. Thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.